If there were two words I would use to describe Smiling Friends, I refer to it as casual greatness. A show that obviously has a lot of effort put into it, but because of the way it's produced, which we'll get into later, leaves an end result that feels very confident and intentional, but also carefree and down to earth at the same time. So with all that being said, why would I argue that it's a good thing the show is coming to an end? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to another Quick Joint, a series where a video is too long to be too short, but too short to be a full-length video. Anyway, in the announcement video that show creators Michael Cusack and Zach Hadel released yesterday at the time that I'm writing this, one of the reasons they cited for the show's conclusion was burnout. And considering there was a 2-year gap in between the first 2 seasons, it wouldn't be surprising if there's a ton of stress happening behind the scenes. So let's break down how the show is produced, how a specific process makes the show great, and use the context of what we learned to inform an inference on what caused the creators to burn out. Zach and Michael are probably the most involved showrunners in animation currently besides the South Park creators, which ironically was one of the main influences for the show. How directly involved Zach and Michael are in the writing/directing process for the show, especially in the first season, mirrors the heavily creator-driven workflow of South Park's 2 creators, Matt and Trey. Since Smiling Friends is being produced by 2 friends, no pun intended, with so much creative chemistry, their ideas balance spontaneity and artistic intent in a way that gives their stories an off-the-wall feel, while still giving the level of conventionality that you would expect from a structured story in a TV show. This became especially apparent for me after watching Blueguy's behind-the-scenes documentary for the show on YouTube that intersplices audio clips of the creators talking to paint a bigger picture of how the show became what it is. In the documentary, there's a portion where Zach and Michael discuss how the very naturalistic dialogue in the opening scene for the season 1 episode of Frowning Friends, one of my personal favorites, was directly inspired by a real-life late-night conversation that the 2 creators had amongst themselves about the Renaissance Men. For context, the opening scene in the episode is Charlie telling Pim that the Renaissance Men are coming, with the joke being that he never gives details on who these men are or why they're arriving, no matter how much Pim asks him to elaborate. This exact humorous dynamic is how the conversation played out in real life and ties into the spontaneous aspect of the show's writing that I was talking about.
A good example is the Renaissance Men thing. The improv in the Frowning Friends episode, like that was just that we were trying to come up with how that would play, and Zach just said, like, it was so late at night, and Zach was like, oh the Renaissance Men, and I, as me, not as Pim, was like, what's that? What are the Renaissance Men? Like, genuinely asking. It's like, it says they're coming into town. I was like, but what are the Renaissance Men? And then you're like, oh no, this should just be it, like what we're saying right now.
But this moment doesn't feel out of place within the structure of the episode, since it isn't a central part of the plot beyond the opening scene until the very end. So it lets us enjoy the spontaneity of what's on display while still having the core story of the episode, which is the Smiling Friends dealing with a rival company, take center stage. That balance cannot be easy to strike. If you haven't seen that episode, go watch it immediately after you finish the video though, and don't fuck up my watch time analytics, bro. Niggas not even monetized yet over here. It's time for me to get back on the grind, I guess. Get them watch hours up. Patreon link is in the description. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, with how big the show has gotten in its short time on air, maybe the popularity of the series contrasting with the somewhat spontaneous nature of the way the show is produced and how involved the 2 creators are snowballed into working on the show becoming a lot more stressful than Zach and Michael expected. Also, the fact that the show ending was announced 2 days before the Paramount Warner Brothers merger was announced feels very intentional to me. For those that don't know, Warner Brothers is the parent company of the parent company that owns Adult Swim. It's almost like the level of stress the 2 creators had working on the series would have been tripled dealing with the internal stress and huge company shakeups that come with mergers of this size. Because I guess Warner Brothers decided the stress they put on the animation industry from the last 2 mergers wasn't enough. Nigga, like, how are these type of deals not considered monopolies at this point? Like antitrust laws, wherever you are, it's time to come outside, because what is happening right now? Not to mention that this deal will fully go into effect as early as the 3rd quarter of this year if approved. So had the show kept going, Zach and Michael, along with their team, probably would have felt the effects of this pretty quickly. But moving on, there was another aspect of the announcement video of the show ending that stood out to me, and it was about how they wouldn't be comfortable handing off the show to other showrunners instead of just ending the show entirely until further notice. And I want to talk about why that decision, in my eyes, is ultimately for the best. We already talked about how hands-on Zack and Michael are with their show, but there has been an array of examples within the animation industry, some more recent than others, that show how giving a series to new showrunners can often dilute the show's quality and or the audience's perception of it. Take the new Gumball seasons for example, right? Now I know a lot of y'all enjoyed those, but the reception for those new seasons was not as unanimous as you might think. Even though there was plenty of critics and fans alike praising the new episodes, there was a decent chunk of people, whether they were just fans online voicing their opinions or video essayists, that weren't the fondest of the new offerings for a show they've waited 7 years to experience again. Now me personally, I didn't think the new episodes are bad, at least from the few I've seen. It's just that what happened behind the scenes with the new episodes have directly caused them to feel different, even if they're still good, at least in my eyes. And the reason behind that is a change in series director since the show's revival, with former series director Mike Graves not returning. Even though the creator Ben Bakule is credited throughout the 2 new seasons and does his best to supervise the new showrunners that have no prior experience with the series, the show ultimately, in a lot of people's eyes and even mine to a certain extent, with the new episodes I've seen, can't fully recreate the series' original voice. And I don't think this hurts the viewing experience for new Gumball episodes as much as it would for the hypothetical scenario of Smiling Friends having new episodes, since Gumball isn't creator driven to the same level that Smiling Friends is. Even the original run of Gumball had drastic changes to its creative voice throughout its run, so that's not something that the show is new to. But the constructive spontaneity of the way Zack and Michael run Smiling Friends makes it to where a drastic shift in its voice would be detrimental to the viewing experience. Even aspects of their past as internet creators greatly inform their work on the show in a way that never felt forced, and more so just felt like a love letter to what got them to where they are. Whether it's one episode referencing one of Michael Cusack's old characters, that character being Lucas the Magnificent, or episodes having cameos from fellow internet creators like Doug Walker, creator of the Nostalgia Critic, or well-renowned YouTube filmmaker Joel Haver, both of which create in unique and zany ways similar to the work of the show's creators. All of these cameos and callbacks feel more like an extension of the unmistakably personal touch that Zack and Michael have given to the world of Smiling Friends, instead of just being pointless internet personality cameos. If that's all they were after, instead of contacting niche but creative micro celebrities like Doug Walker and Joel Haver, it would have just got an extremely popular YouTuber to show up for no reason, just for the sake of having an internet personality in an episode to draw eyes. What if they just added in internet niggas to episodes for the sake of having internet niggas? Imagine turning on a Smiling Friends episode and seeing, I don't know, Mr. Beast or whoever normal people watch on YouTube these days. That would feel mad awkward and completely throw off the flow of the show. Now that that's all out of the way, allow me to give my final thoughts. I think one of the main reasons we all love Smiling Friends so much, or at least why I do, beyond just the quality of the show itself, is just how such a unique show getting to thrive in the way that it has in an animation industry full of left and right cancellations, incessant company mergers, and where for the most part the only projects that seem to survive are cartoons based on the reheated nachos of past generations. And as somebody who holds the medium of animation near and dear to their heart, I don't get joy out of saying such doomer things like this, even when they feel true in the moment. But ironically, outside of the new Gumball episodes, there's not that many currently airing cartoons I've seen in the past few years that have survived, at least, leave an impact on internet culture, which is essentially a replacement for mainstream pop culture at this point, if we're being honest, in a way that this show had. Whether it's dope fan animations or IG pages dedicated to recreating iconic album covers with the Smiling Friends characters, and the fact that, without getting too into detail or more than I have already, the greater capitalist structures beyond our control, or heck, even the death of a monoculture to a certain extent, have made it to where cultural beacons like Smiling Friends are becoming less and less possible in the traditional animation industry. Either I'm getting at something with these points, or I'm becoming way too cynical to only be 19 years of age. To be honest, it could be a mixture of both, but in totality, for the reasons I listed throughout this video, I think it's a good thing for Smiling Friends to end, if that means there'll be one less show that has its legacy ruined to the point where I could never look at it the same anymore. If what I said in this video stuck with you today and you want the quickest updates on videos like these, follow me on IG at Genius the Great, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and donate to the Patreon if you have the funds. All linked in the description. Anyway, this has been a quick joint, and until next time, I'm out this mug.